particularly with Senator Warner and I leading this effort. I thank you for it. Senator Casey.
Mr. Chairman, thanks very much. I want to start, Secretary Yellen, by thanking you for your enduring commitment to public service, yet again taking on a tough job, and we're grateful for that and your presence here today and the work you've done. I want to thank the chairman and Senator Brown as well for the work they did to make it possible for us to have the child tax credit, the enhanced version of that in place. In my home state of Pennsylvania, 2.2 million families benefited from that reduction in poverty, and that reduction occurred as much in rural areas as it did in urban areas. So we're grateful for that. I wanted to talk to you about workers and ask you one or two questions about the tax code and workers. When you compare what the tax code has done as it relates most recently to workers compared to corporations, we know in 2017 the corporate rate went way down from 35 to 21. That 14-point drop was about $1.4 trillion over 10 years. But what is not talked about a lot is what workers lost in that tax bill. They lost their ability to deduct moving expenses when a job forces them to relocate. They also lost, if they're a member of a union, they lost the deduction for the cost of their union dues. Workers can't deduct the cost of their union dues, but corporations are still permitted to deduct the cost of running anti-union campaigns. This is both an insult to American workers and should be an insult to every American, but it's also an insult and I think in direct contravention of the 1935 National Labor Relations Act. Earlier this year, the President's Task Force on Worker Organizing and Empowerment spoke to these issues. I've got two bills, one bill to restore the tax deduction, but also another bill to crack down on union busting. Madam Secretary, I'd ask you to respond to this question. Do you agree that we need to restore and improve the union dues tax deduction that the 2017 tax bill took away and end the taxpayer subsidization of anti-union campaigns by corporations?
I do, and let me say that we strongly support the work that the Worker Empowerment Task Force is doing. We look forward to working with you and other members of Congress to develop legislative provisions in support of that mission.
Thanks very much. The last question I have is about the code again. In 2017, corporations had their rates cut by that 21%, as I mentioned. Business owners also got a 20% write-off on their personal taxes, but that same cut was not available to their workers. The IRS just reported by 2017 it had all but stopped auditing the taxes of wealthy private business owners. Less than 0.2% of pass-through businesses were audited in 2017. So while they were getting huge tax cuts, no one was checking to see if they were paying the taxes that they already owe. We know the EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit recipients, were 5 times more likely to be audited than a pass-through business owner. Hard to comprehend that. So people making $40,000 or less, 5 times more likely to be audited. Madam Secretary, can you speak to the steps the administration has taken to make sure that wealthy business owners pay their fair share in taxes?
I mean, it's an appalling set of statistics, Senator, that you recite there. We have an enormous tax gap. Workers who receive W-2 income pay what's owed. The error rates are absolutely tiny, and most of the tax gap has to do with high-income taxpayers, including those who benefit from pass-throughs, that have opaque sources of income we know less about, and the resources of the IRS have been cut to the point where they've largely cut back on the complicated audits, the ones that are harder, of high-income taxpayers. And the fact that such a large share goes to audit the EITC is very unfair. I strongly urge Congress to approve the $80 billion that we've requested for the IRS to be able to to make sure that people are paying the taxes that are due. And it's very unfair to workers and lower-income households the way things work now.
Thank you, Secretary Yellen.
Senator Casey, you and the Secretary have just given a little teach-in about this double standard in America with respect to audits, and it's time to change it because everybody ought to be held accountable, and it's got to be done in a fair way. And the point you've made and the Secretary's made is that's not being done today to the expense of people of modest means. Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding the hearing and giving me the chance to ask questions. Secretary Yellen, thank you